Join me all in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk take the roll, please.
Mayor Rowe?
Here.
District 1 Morissette?
Here.
2 O'Connell?
Here.
3 Rademacher?
Here.
4 Weiland?
Here.
5 O'Malley?
Here.
6 Cook? Here.
At this point in our agenda, we take comments and suggestions from citizens present. Is there anyone here who would like to address the council on any subject that is not on the agenda? I don't know what you want to talk about.
Well, you're going to talk about something that's on the agenda,
On the
right?
agenda.
That's for later.
No. Anyone? Anyone want to address the council? Hearing none, let's go to the consent agenda items, and Madam Clerk will vocalize those for us.
To approve the public hearing in the regular meeting minutes of December 4th, 2006. To approve claims for payment in the amount of $707,414.09. A detailed description is available in the clerk's office for inspection. To approve the issuance of a regular operator's license for the period December 19th, 2006 through June 30th, 2008 to Geraldine Berg, Lakeland, Minnesota, to deny the request of Bieneman Farms Townhomes for parking restrictions on Albert Street at Holly Curve. To approve the installation of no parking signs at the south end of Redwood Drive. To appoint the election inspectors for the City of Hudson for the year 2007 as submitted by the Republican and Democratic parties. To place on file the Assessor's Annual Report, the Library Board minutes of November 13th, 2006, and the Public Utility Commission minutes of December 12th, 2006. That is all.
What is your pleasure on the consent? Move to approve. Or a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Morissette?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Weiland?
Yes.
Cook? Yes. Rademacher?
Yes.
O'Connell?
Yes. Motion is carried. Let's go to the Plan Commission, resolution number 14-06 regarding the discontinuance and vacation of portions of Myrtle Street. Denny is going to give us an executive summary.
There are 3 committees that looked at this: Plan Commission, Public Safety, and Parks Board all have looked at this. Plan Commission recommends approval of discontinuance of the north and south 18 feet of Myrtle Street west of First Street. The list pendants has been filed. I believe there's a very minor modification in the resolution. There's one extra zero in the citation for the state section. So with that modification, recommend approval.
Did we have the first reading on that?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
And that correction has been done on the
All right,
original.
thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, we need? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Let's go to Finance Committee. Item number 4, consider ordering 2 police department squad cars for delivery in 2007. It's my understanding it's in the budget. Recommendation from Finance is to accept the Ewell Chev bid for $40,354 for 2 squads delivered.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
I'd like to note that this final price does include shipping and handling charges. The cars, this is the price of the cars here, not in Economo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Let's go to 2000 assessment maintenance contract with appraisal service. Recommendation from Finance is to accept Bomar's bid for, how much was that, 20,500.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Let's go down to Public Safety Committee. Approval of Hot Air Affair Parade and Event, February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of 2007. I understand we have some people that would like to speak to this particular subject in the audience. Do we have a spokesman or? There's been some question about the number of people that you have at each one of those particular separate events, and maybe you can give us a summary of starting out with the Rock School Glow.
As you know, there's a number of people in town for the event that weekend. But, if we sit back and we look at it, we try to, count the numbers, and we don't know what the numbers are. We're saying probably less than 1,000 people at each place at one time. There's thousands of people in town, but there's only, if we have a glow, if it's a nice night, we have a lot of people. If it's a bad night, we don't have that many people. So, we don't count, we don't have, we don't sell tickets, so we don't really know what the number is, but I'm going to say on a bad night, we have less than 1,000 people there. In the parade also, on a bad night, same thing.
Okay. Any questions? Council?
Their concern is about the insurance requirement?
I believe so.
Yes.
And the application, right?
Yeah, we do have the application. I think everybody does have a copy of the application. We understand why.
My understanding, if you have more than 1,000 people at any segment for the parade or whatever, it jumps from 1 million to 3, is that right?
No, what the ordinance requires is any assembly that this ordinance applies to needs to provide $3 million of liability insurance. However, there is a provision in the ordinance that allows the city to adjust requirements based on the time, place, manner of conducting any particular event. So that if, for example, your events or your gatherings during the event are self-contained and not going on simultaneously, maybe that amount of liability insurance wouldn't be necessary because it's not 1,000 people at one time. I mean, it's a provision in the ordinance that's designed to say, okay, not every event is the same, and there may be situations where, because the way the event's carried out, they don't need to meet all these requirements. And really, it's up to the council and maybe the staff to help, get more information on what the situation is and what what requirements you're concerned about and why it may or may not apply to your event. Or, listen to the information right now. But there is provision in the ordinance for adjusting where it makes sense based on the type of event.
We have somebody else who wants to speak. Come on up, Mary, and you got to identify yourself. You're on TV.
Good evening. I'm Mary Martin. I'm Secretary of the Hot Air Fair, and I just wanted to speak up and say probably one of the largest numbers of people that we deal with all totaled through the event is on Friday at the schools. It's going on at several schools, but it's our own school students. And we might have 300 at the largest one, where I take different pilots into the schools and they talk to the students about the events. They talk to them about the hot air ballooning, and I just wanted to say that probably 150, probably no more than 250 at the evening moon glow. There's maybe a couple hundred downtown, maybe 300 with watchers at the parade. We have a whole list on our brochures and on our mailings about the events. They do go on maybe 2 o'clock. They start at 10 in the morning on Saturday. There's a craft fair that starts at 8, but everything is coming on schedule over 2 days. So there's never a real large gathering at one time.
Mary, how long have you been having the Hot Air Fair?
This is our 18th year.
Okay.
I've been secretary for about 12 years. We're unincorporated, and it was started to give a winter event for people because they give some community activity for the city's people, something to do in the cold weather, There's everything from outdoor volleyball to indoor craft shows to kids' events at the school to the individual programs that I put on at the school.
Council have any questions?
Well, if we're under 1,000 people, do they even need to fill out the large assembly ordinance?
No, that only applies to 1,000 in attendance per day.
So do they even have an issue here? Or does that
I
sound
don't-
like they do? I mean, maybe one night, maybe it sounds like, if it's a good night, but that's a maybe, right?
Yeah, I think they've got to make their best effort to estimate attendance, and if it's less than 1,000, then the ordinance doesn't apply.
Looking for a motion. Go ahead. For
I
approval.
just think this is one of the best events that, and you guys have worked extremely hard on it. And for us to try to hamper it, and it's the first time I've ever heard you guys kind of have a hesitation about what's going to happen next year. So I don't want to see that happen. It's too good of a program for this community, the tourist dollar. Nice job.
Want to make a motion for approval?
I move to approve as is. How would you like that?
I will second that if we can make a slight change in the wording here. And it's just to clarify a little bit, because they're asking, according to the wording here, permission for a parade on Friday night the 2nd. Well, I've attended the parade for many years. I would like us to state in there that a parade on 2nd Street between Vine and Commercial Streets on Friday night the 2nd. So we say where the parade is.
that
This
okay
wording
with
does not
the,
say where the parade is.
That's
Is
fine.
that okay with that change?
Okay.
So just so they're clear, 'cause maybe they are or not, are they considered a large assembly that we need to worry about this new ordinance, or are they okay?
Well,
just to
every
keep-
year they're going to have to assess what they estimate the attendance to be. And, you know, obviously, we rely on your best efforts to estimate the number. And if you're telling the city that you expect it to be less than 1,000, then the ordinance doesn't apply. But, you know, you've got to make that, if for some reason this year it just went over that, then next year you'd have to look, well, you know, maybe we're getting more attendance and need to look at the ordinance.
But if it's 40 below,
Right, I know, yours is a variable type, I mean, it's highly variable. That's why we have the provision in the ordinance that, look, in some situations, we need to adjust it. And you just need to make your best estimate of attendance and
and that's
do
about
your
all we
best.
can do, you know,
Right,
every
and
year.
that's all
for-
the city can expect.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Good luck. Thank you for bringing all those people, even if they're not the numbers that we were talking about. But been very successful, and we wish you luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's go down to unfinished business. Consider issuance of 241,500 GO promissory notes as short-term debt for capital outlay, Resolution 15-06. Did we have the first reading?
I'll move for approval of ordinance, or resolution 15-06.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion. Betty, you want to make some comments about that?
The only thing I want to say is it's $245,000 promissory, or 241.5, you're right, I'm sorry. 245 total, that's right. Nothing,
Is that okay?
that's fine.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Let's go down to B, Vine Street, Diamond Drive intersection. We have a presentation by one of our altar persons here.
I thought that as we were going through the discussion, it'd be good to get kind of a picture up and get some ideas on paper, and so I did that.
I'm going to be handing out some system that they use in, a flag system that they use in Bayport, Minnesota. They've been using this for quite a few years. Highly successful, and I think Scott did talk to the chief of police. There's a picture here also of Debbie stopping traffic as she's crossing the street with one of these flags. And she said, I could stop traffic without the flag. So maybe we need her up on Vine Street. Did you get one of these?
Here's one more. We have one.
Well, this is the second one, that's
That's okay.
8 by 11 glossy.
There's lots of these.
Flag.
You sure? Yes, we've got extras over there.
Yeah, there's lots of.
You got enough now?
You want to pass the extras down to Randy?
You got extras?
Who does?
I've got some. Of this one, Randy.
Here. I didn't get that one.
Oh, they're right here. We got stuff here.
This is all the same.
Yep.
Process that they've had.
That?
Mr. Weiler,
Just a little earlier, this meeting, yeah.
good picture of Dick Cheney holding that flag there.
You don't look happy there.
This is part of our discussion at the safety committee meeting. We talked about all the different options, and I thought we would put some of this on paper, and then we can talk through the different points of it. Oh,
on?
I'm on now. That's
Is that
different.
on?
Now it's on.
Electrified.
All right. So the study came back, and the
Quiet, everyone.
quiet on the floor. The study came back and suggested the removal of the stop sign. So I thought, well, to get the concept and the ideas rolling, one of the neighbors had said a number of times, we want a safer intersection. The stop sign is one way to make it safer. If the stop sign were to come out, we still have the problem that we want to have a safer intersection. So I went through and put together some ideas here, and these came directly out of the study. So I just want to get them on paper. Oops, can they see that or not? TV audience can't see. Oh, all right, there we go.
Sure.
Sort of. They can sort of see. So looking across this way, this is Vine Street. And this is Diamond Drive, YMCA here on the top. What the study had said that based on the amount of traffic going across that intersection, based on the number of pedestrians going across the intersection, that it was, and the fact that I've been out there and I've spent a lot of time looking at that intersection, we have a serious speed problem across this intersection, which is what's causing the safety issues. So my recommendations, or what is talked about here, is we talked about in our safety committee meeting electronic speed sign. So I have an idea of the electronic speed sign here, an electronic speed sign here. So coming up the hill, people know, hey, you're entering the city. The speed limit at this point is 25 miles an hour. But the flow of traffic coming across here today doesn't change, continues to have a left turn lane into the YMCA, because a lot of our traffic is in and out of the Y. So coming both ways, this is a heavy traffic. So my recommendation here is to have your left turn lane, leave that alone, but on this side, put in a median. This is a cement median that allows people to walk across, stop in the middle as a safety precaution for your pedestrians, and then continue to walk across. The red things here are supposed to indicate the flags. Jack brought the pictures of the flag system crossing there. So you have not only the safety zone, you have red flags that allow people to walk across safely. The median in this area, the speed signs, slowing people down is going to make a safer intersection across here. There was a recommendation from one of the people here that Shelley had said he was concerned about a left turn lane here without an opposing lane here, causing a safety problem for pedestrians who would be standing here. So one of the thoughts was to put some steel post systems in here. I wish Shelley was here to talk about that.
They have steel posts filled with concrete, sunk into the concrete of the median.
So if a car came careening across here as if they were going to turn, there would be safety for this pedestrian. So we tried to look at, think about a lot of those different concepts. And then one of the things he said in his recommendations here for the crosswalk, he said, I would recommend some different colors, or a raised crosswalk, or a brick crosswalk. And so part of our discussion, I thought, would be about, do we do some sort of tailoring of this, make it a raised table or something that, again, continues to keep people coming slow across that intersection. So those are some of the beginning thoughts there to start the discussion. Oh, and then one other thing. I was driving back and forth across that intersection, and as soon as I cross Diamond and head toward Carmichael, I'll keep looking down at my speedometer going, I'm not going 25 miles an hour anymore. And then watching the people coming in from Carmichael, they're not going 25 miles an hour. Now, when that area is built up, it may make a lot of sense to have 25 miles an hour. I don't know how many people have driven that and felt what they feel coming across there. I think somebody, what was your quote?
Well, I'll get into that.
Okay, but anyhow, so I was suggesting that we rethink this speed, that as you come down off this hill to Carmichael, or from Carmichael in, that we don't reduce the speed until we can enforce it. And it isn't really needed a slow speed out here. What you have to have is coming up over this hill. You need a slow speed to make this, this intersection safer. So those would be starting of our discussion points.
I'd like to add to what Lee has discussed about the flags, because Deb of our Public Works Department, Deb Andrews, spoke with Mel, the Public Works Director in Bayport. I spoke with the Chief of Police, John Ganaway, in Bayport, about their experience with the flag system, because frankly, I found it counterintuitive when somebody said, well, we just have these flags on either side of the road and people pick them up and use them as they cross the street. I didn't think that sounded very successful to me. Well, I was dead wrong. Mel in the Public Works Department said that, yes, some of the flags are going to grow legs and they're going to disappear. Some souvenir hunters are going to take some small amount of the flags, so you better buy yourself a fairly good quantity, but he said they're very inexpensive. And Chief Ganaway could not say enough good things about the flag system. He said we have done the same things that you and Hudson have done. We've got the flexible pedestrian crossing stickers in the middle of the lanes. He said that's kind of the thing that sometimes winds up in the bottom of somebody's car and getting dragged off. We've done everything else. He said we've done everything that Hudson has done. And he said, I cannot recommend highly enough this flag system. He said we have had no problems with it whatsoever. And they have 3 points where they use the flag system in Bayport, and they're crossing a state highway, not just a county road like we have here. And he was almost effusive that he was so pleased with the way that it's worked out for Bayport, and they've had no troubles, no pedestrian incidents whatsoever. So he said he highly, highly recommended the flags.
I'd like to hitchhike on what you said, because just the daily traffic that goes through Bayport, north and south, you also have 2 or 3 shifts when Bayport Anderson Corporation gets out, and with the flags alone, they're able to control all of that traffic, which is a lot, let me tell you, at 3 and whatever other shifts that they have. So they're really controlling a lot of traffic in that particular area at a given time, in addition to daily traffic that goes across.
I'd like to make a further point of elaboration of something that Lee mentioned, and he and I did discuss this morning. He's been doing a lot of work here at this intersection, and I've been traveling well, I've been here for 30 years, but made myself do it again. Cooley on the south side of the freeway, Crestview, Cooley on the north side of the freeway, Crestview on the south side of the freeway, and then moving to Carmichael. Here's our situation, and I think that we're making a mistake in our speed limits. On Cooley, you can travel east or west with businesses on the north side of the road. It's one business after another, and you can do that at 40 miles an hour. On the south side of the freeway, when you're on Crestview, again, you've got businesses on one side of the road, one right after the other, and a paved pedestrian walkway right next to the roadway, and you can drive that at 40 miles an hour. Those are the posted limits for those roads. Then when you turn onto Carmichael and head north, there are residences and a church on the east side of that road, and you can go 45 miles an hour. But when you then turn left onto Vine to come into the city, you encounter nothing on your right, nothing on your, it's cornfield. There's nothing there. There are no structures there. There are no connecting feeder streets like we have on both Cooley and Crestview, and we have a sign saying you got to go down to 25 miles an hour. Now, the thing I quoted to Lee earlier that popped in my mind, I thought was very instructive. It's over 200 years old, and it comes from Thomas Jefferson at the time of the Continental Congress, when he said, though Congress may enact laws, if they go against the common sense of the people, they will not be obeyed. And so when you come on to Vine and says you must go 25 miles an hour, I believe the message we're actually sending to drivers is ignore this message. because your mind tells you there's nothing here. You've just been going 45 on a more populated street than this one, and now you've got to go 25. I think the subliminal message is ignore our traffic signs, ignore our speed limit signs. I think that should go to 35 or 40 until you're about 30 yards, as Lee had on his chart, till you're about 30 yards or so before the diamond intersection, where there we have an electronic sign. I would prefer the radar sign that says, the limit here is 25 now. You're going this, they have that now in St. Paul, when people come very quickly down Kellogg Boulevard over from Dayton's Bluff. You're going downhill. It's hard to, you got to ride the brake to stay at 30 miles an hour. But they have a big new speed limit sign there that says it's 30 now and you're going 42 or whatever you happen to be going. I think that would be most effective, and it would get people to respect, I think, our speed limit a little bit more. We're making sense when we say out here in the country you can go 40, but now you're coming into a populated area. Now it's 25. So,
Well, I agree with the flags. I think it's fine if the stop signs come on, the flags go in, but I disagree with the speed, and here's why, Scott, is that if you have the speed limit at 40 or 35 like it was, the problem is that people aren't slowing down until they get past that intersection. That's the problem. When the speed is slower, people are driving slower at a slower rate of speed by the time they get to the intersection. If you have the speed limit change, maybe it shouldn't be all the way to Carmichael, maybe it's at the bottom of the hill, but I think that only 30 or 40 yards from that intersection is not nearly enough space. You need to have a greater distance of 25 miles an hour so people do slow down before they get to that intersection. And it's not, previously that wasn't happening. That was one of the major concerns of that intersection.
The reason I say what I'm saying is that I think we ought, just empirically, anecdotally, I guess I should say, we already know they're not slowing down to 25. They're just not slowing down to 25.
No, you're right, but they're maybe going 30, 35 versus 40, 45, and that's a big difference.
And that's why I really would like to see the electronic sign there. But like I said, you're the one that flashes, you're now doing, it sounds like the same one you're talking about. You're now doing 35 miles an hour, 25. I hit it going down to Afton. Okay, it did flash for me, but still, it reminded me that it changes now, and coming up that hill, you see that sign start flashing saying, there must be something important coming up because this sign is telling me to slow down.
Well, electronic signs, I believe, according to Sergeant Marty, are either on order or we're waiting to make some decision on this whole intersection before we ordered them.
Actually, I think at the last two public safety meetings ago, 3M had said that they were going to donate the one and put it up while we made that decision.
Are we sure we're talking about?
We're talking about the electronic one that flashes.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not talking about the trailer.
No.
The trailer's a different
We're
thing.
talking about the permanent electronics.
But even the trailer has been very effective. They've had it on
Oh,
Lion
yeah.
Street, just past the high school, and
Yeah.
people are almost rear-ending each other because.
But we're talking about a permanent
Yes.
installation.
But they are effective.
Right.
Because we need to change the traffic behavior at that point.
Well, what would be wrong with putting up two electronics at a speed limit to be determined during our discussion, and the flag system, and see how that works?
I will move that we investigate the cost of those. Okay, I move that we authorize Devin to investigate the cost of those implements we've just talked about. And come back to us with that cost so that we can vote on them. Right now, we don't know how much exactly all this, I don't know the cost of the flags, I just know they're not expensive.
So you're talking the cost of the flags, the cost of the.
Two radar-equipped digital, signs, permanent signs.
And I think
And a median, the median plus the posts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll work with Jim.
Randy, you mentioned that they were going to donate these signs?
There's a program, and the gentleman that gave us that presentation at Public Safety said, we'll donate these, put them in.
That's the info I had too.
Yeah.
Well,
The other thing I think, Scott, would be some type of tactile crosswalk, be it, domes or something there, just so that you have, there's a tactile sensor, you drive across it.
Something that'll withstand the snowplows.
Right, exactly. But I think that should all be.
Is that okay?
Whether
with
it's
this
stamped as brick
Hasn't been
or.
a secondary.
Seconder? Huh?
There hasn't been a secondary yet.
I thought we got one. Did we get a second or no?
I'll second
But
it.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I thought there was one too.
Okay, now, please.
Wyeth, 611 12 Oaks Lane. I live on a street that tees into Vine Street right at Wisconsin. And I remember addressing this council 20 years ago, about the fact that nobody drives 25 miles an hour up Vine Street. There isn't, including myself. There isn't anybody that drives 25 miles an hour on that entire stretch until you get to Carmichael and people are forced to stop and then they take off again at fairly substantial speeds. I would agree with Councilmember Rademacher that making people slow down earlier means that you are cutting their speed, and that's what people need to do is incrementally. But I think the idea that we can leave our speeds high and then expect them to slam on the brakes and behave themselves properly on Vine Street is ridiculous, because they don't do it now, even at the areas where they've been coming slowly out of the residential area on the west part, moving in towards the high school. I also would like I'm a little unclear about the enthusiasm for the flags, as I believe that the issues at Diamond and Vine Street really relate to the cars. I've seen very few people trying to walk across Vine Street there. I've seen a great number of cars trying to make a turn across traffic, and I think the Y and the business center up there have had enormous experience with that, people stuck backing up into those parking lots, and the people from Diamond also are having the same trouble trying to make that turn onto Vine Street westbound. So I'm a little unclear about how having pedestrian signs is going to help solve the vehicular issues of being backed up.
But we had that before, and the biggest complaint that came in was people trying to cross Vine because of traffic.
Then perhaps there's both, because it seems to me now that there truly is an equitable access from all of the sides of that intersection.
We've also had, two recommendations from traffic experts at BRA indicating that we don't need that stop sign?
Well, perhaps grooving the road as you have other intersections where you get that 2 or 3 of those that really make you pay attention, so that would help what Councilmember O'Malley is saying.
What we're talking about now is basically the flags, electronic signs, and a crosswalk. Median, right?
And the guard posts.
Well, basically everything on his drawing.
Thank you,
Right.
council members.
Well, how would the Casanova is next?
Extra copies of this.
Pat Casanova, 739 11th Street here in Hudson. The only thing I would add to what you're already doing there is put in a street light so that pedestrians can be seen. It is so dark coming into that area that if you do have pedestrians, a lot of times it's really hard to see people there.
I believe the light is actually on the other side. I'm not positive.
I'm just saying, if you're going to create the hazard for people across there, light it so that they're not in harm's way.
Well,
At the next intersection up where you turn to go, at the stop sign where you go into Stone Pine, you've got the crosswalk on one side of the intersection and the street light on the other also, so the pedestrian walkway is in the dark.
Good suggestion. We'll take a look at that.
well, I think we should, I guess.
Oh, go ahead. We're still in
I
discussion.
mean, we have a lot of issues here, and this was referred to public safety for, we didn't have a chance to do this in the December meeting because Lee was gone, so we were going to do this in January. I think we should go ahead and look at, like we are directing this motion to have Devin investigate the costs and probably even implement the flag system as soon as we are able to. But
Well, I think that's a good idea, and I'd like to expedite getting those costs, because I don't want this to go on forever.
Right.
This thing's been going on for almost 8 months. And let's put it to bed once and for all. We certainly have attacked it from every angle in every traffic situation. Let's make a decision and go.
Our decision on the speed limit, do we need to make that now? I mean, I think we should, I personally feel we should leave it at 25 all the way, because it's confusing when you turn onto a street and it's 35 for a little bit and then it goes to 25, and if we take that stop sign out, people are most likely going to speed up, and why would we encourage them to do it sooner if we have it at 40?
I agree.
I agree.
Is that 25? Somebody want to make a motion?
Well, it's there now, so.
Yeah, we don't need to move on
We don't
that.
have to change that. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion?
Aye.
Can we have that read?
Yeah, okay,
Can we read that?
okay.
We've
The
already
motion,
had it.
I'll reiterate it. The motion is to authorize Devin, who I'm sure will talk with Jim Muehlberg, to get us costs for the flags, the median strip on the east side of the intersection, plus the cement and concrete filled posts for pedestrian safety, and 2 digitally operated electronic signs.
You didn't mention if you want to do something with a raised walkway.
Are you looking at rumble strips
Yeah.
in that crosswalk or something of a better?
We'll look at various options.
All right.
Okay.
So we'll include some traffic altering surface.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All kinds of seconds. Any other discussion?
Just so we add those costs to public safety, since that meets before our next council meeting.
Usually council's before public safety next month. Council's on the 2nd.
It's on the
Right?
second.
Because it'll normally be on the 1st, but
Yeah.
council will be on the 2nd.
Unless you want to have a special one.
No, okay, I take that back. I thought we were to the later.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Let's go to the back. New business presentation by Sean Lentz of Ehlers and Associates, Tax Increment District Number 4 and Financial Planning. Sean's going to tell us basically the objective in this particular presentation and the reasons why we're taking this particular approach. Did everybody have a copy of this in their packets? Yep. Oh, you made some slight changes.
This one This is the final one, sorry.
Is this the final now, Sean?
Okay, pass those on.
Is there enough?
Everybody got one?
Mayor, if I could ask, would it be all right if I said I'm having a little legal problem?
Absolutely.
Want to give them the microphone?
You want to take the mic, though?
No,
We got a portable here.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Is that, okay, great. What we've been working with the city on, and the mayor alluded to, was looking at tax increment district number 4, the status of the district, particularly in light that I know the council and the mayor are going over some projects now. There may be some larger ticket items that I know you're involved in a lot of planning and review of those. And we wanted to, and this is on the second page of the handout, is really look at, is it possible through some financial planning to be able to coordinate these infrastructure needs and the final decision on the infrastructure needs with the closing of tax increment district number 4. Now, before we go into too much detail on this, does everyone understand the tax increment district, what it represents? I think the council probably has a good idea of what it represents and how the mechanics of TIF, okay. But feel free, as I'm presenting, if you have a question as we move along, please stop me and I'd be happy to answer those right away.
Sean, could I ask if this is okay with the mayor? Would you mind, for the audience at home, explaining a little bit how the TID works?
Sure, absolutely. The tax increment district was created in 1995, and the way TIF works is the city goes through a process of creating a project plan and segregating an area within the city that any new development on that area, any new development above the value of when the district is created, that value, new development is captured, and tax revenue on that new value is put into a separate fund. It's called the Tax Increment District Fund. That fund can only be used to pay back costs associated with the development of that area. And when I talk about the taxes that you collect on that new development, it's not just the taxes that the city collects, but it's the taxes from all of the taxing jurisdictions. So you pay the same tax whether your property's in a TIF or outside of a tax increment district. But the city collects into that separate fund all of the shares, so the county share, the city share, the technical college share, and the school district share, and it goes into that separate fund that, again, can only be used to pay back costs associated with the district. Okay? Well, let's go to page number 3, and let's spend a minute or two just talking about the current status of tax increment district number 4. As I had mentioned, this district was created in 1995, and originally it had a 7-year expenditure period that was then extended to 10 years, and with a change in the TIF law in 2004 and 5, it now actually goes to 2017. So the city's allowed to do projects and use the tax increment district to repay those projects as long as they're in the plan and they're contemplated in the plan up to 2017. 5 years after that date, or 2022, is the last date that the TIF could be in existence. That's called the max period for the tax increment district. Even if all the costs weren't paid back at that time, the city would have to close the district in 2022. Okay? Now, what is that current captured valuation? When the district was created in 95, there was value on the property that you put into the district. But at that time, that value was frozen, and the taxes collected on that value have continued to be paid to all the jurisdictions, just like anywhere else in the city. But the new value, the new development, now totals $173,460,400. So that's the tax base that is captured in tax increment district number 4 in the city of Hudson. Now, the expected tax revenue, and again, this is the revenue from all of the jurisdictions' portion of a tax payment for 2007, is just over $2.6 million. Okay? Any questions on that?
I'd like you to point out, if you would, Sean, that the city gets approximately 25 cents on every dollar.
Yes.
So we would get approximately 1/4 of this 2.6 million.
That's correct. Yeah, and actually, as we go forward, we do hit on that point.
Oh,
so
okay.
we'll get to that. No, that's good point. Now, TID number 4, the current balance as of the end of '05, cash balance in the district was about $2.6 million, and there was about $4.8 million in principal on debt outstanding. So as you can see, all the expenditures are not paid back at this time. Now, there are some existing expenditures that haven't been spent yet or are in the process, and some are projected but not finalized, and that's what that third bullet point represents. The 446 was the approximate for costs throughout 2006, and just over $1 million in 2007. And I think this is mostly infrastructure improvements on the business park, I think, that are left over. I just note that there could be some other expenditures because that expenditure period does have a few years left, and you do have projects that could be done as a part of the project plan. And I also mentioned, wanted to highlight here, the $173 million represents development through the January 106 valuation. There could be other development creating more tax base there as well. Okay, now with all of this in mind, preliminary projections show that TID 4 may be able to be closed in 2008. And actually, I'm going to have Brian do a couple slides here, if I may.
In order to be able to close the district in '08, more than likely we'll have to have some discussions with your auditor, Steve Tracy. He'll do some calculations to see where you stand from recovering project cost standpoint. As Sean mentioned, you may also incur some additional expenses. If you're able to close the district before May 15th and this is for any year, not just 2008, the tax base will be returned for the subsequent year's budget. And anything after that, you'll wait another year to collect revenue, and the district will be closed after that. Upon closing, all of that tax base will return to all of the taxing jurisdictions, and it will get taxed just like all the other valuation throughout the city. Now, as far as how that impacts your levy limits, right now you're limited on your levy per state statute. When that number is calculated, you capture the entire net new construction of the tax increment district. So that number is set in stone, and it's not going to change just because you take the tax increment district offline. So what's going to happen is all of that valuation will be done for basically two things. You can either lower your mill rate, so you'll have the same dollar levy, but you'll have a larger base to spread that levy over. or because of the issue of debt on levy limits, which are outside of the levy limits, you can use that valuation to be captured as basically debt service. So when Sean's talking about coordinating the closing of the TIF with your major capital expenditures, that's what he's referring to, is using that tax base not as a portion of the general fund budget for operations, but using those dollars to pay back expenditures that you're going to make using debt.
If we go to page number 6, this just reflects the equalized valuation both in and out of the city from 2001 through 2006, which you just point out the city's had steady growth over this period of time. And you'll also notice that the TID4 valuation has become a significant portion of the city's total tax base. And if on page 7, we'll put a number to that, the tax base at this point is about just under 12% is captured of the city's total tax base. Just under 12% is captured in the tax increment district. And to Scott's question earlier, if we were to close the district, it would be about $700,000 of that $2.6 million that would come to the city based on the current mill rate. And if that was used in that tax base in a particular year, the current year you're in, as a part of your current budget that you finished, that would take the equalized mill rate from about 4.07 down to 3.59. So you can see it does have a significant impact on the current budgeted expenses. And with the current levy limit rules in place, the additional funds, again, because that new construction is always already factored in. When you close the TIF, it's not like that is added to new construction for the purposes of the state's levy limits at this time. So really, it can only be used for new debt service, which is outside of the limits, or the mill rate is just going to be suppressed at that point. Mayor?
Sean, in council, the reason I asked Sean to take a look at this, we have a request in from the police department for a safety building that's probably in the light of $7 million. Also, the fire department asking for some area also that's going to cost about $3 million. Well, I thought with the levy limits that we have, by pursuing closing the TIF district in 2008, and maybe Madison lifting the levy limit, we might be in a better position with those two approaches to at least satisfy the requests that are coming in for additional buildings. So by prolonging a little bit and looking at ahead to close that TIF district, we might be in a very good position to at least come up with these two buildings that really need some attention. And there's going to be a lot of discussion whether we do it off campus here from the downtown city area, whether we build on, whether we make some changes. That'll all be decided by you, the council. But I thought it was timely that we take a look at this so that we can start making some decisions on making further plans for all of these requests. Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you, Mayor. The next couple pages, 8 and 9, you've probably seen this before, but 8 is, I want to just give you this as a basis for looking at our projections, which are the following pages then. 8 is just where the city's total levy has gone from 01 through 07, 07 being the most recent year. And then in page number 9, this is the mill rate of the city, equalized mill rate from 01 through 07. And you can see that the mill rate has fallen significantly over that period of time, from 5.92 in 2001 down to 4.07 in 2007. Again, that's the city's share of the total mill rate. Okay, now if we can go to page 10, as the mayor alluded to, a lot of this is very preliminary, but we wanted to give you the big picture, and so we started with a number of assumptions. And to show you how the impact of the TID coinciding with some of these major projects can be planned for. If we assume that TID number 4 is closed in 08, so that tax base then would be available for other expenditures like a potential new debt service in 2009, and the city ultimately approves a financing plan for a lot of these projects that you would have before you. We did some preliminary projections with an issuance of about $2 million annually in debt in the years 2007 and then 2009 through 11 with a 10-year repayment. And then we did two options, a $10 million in 2008, which would be for regular capital expenditures and the police facility, fire facility, and then another one at $5 million. Again, the thought there is not really knowing where those solutions are going to come in and keeping all options open to you as to which route you'll go in. Now, again, the last bullet, just the preliminary projects then range from all categories that the city has to do financing in and that the council reviews, as well as those major projects, which would be the potential fire station and police building. Okay, if we go to page 11 then, I just show you that the impact of adding that debt in 2007, 2009 through 11 of a $2 million issue with a 10-year payback each year, and a 2008 issue of $10 million. You can see the green represents where your existing debt levy is, and that's falling over time. The purple, dark purple, represents the capital levy, which you approved the initial financing earlier tonight. And then the lighter purple represents the increase with that finance plan, which would be those $2 million a year issues plus the $10 million. So you can see the current levy is around, I think for this year, around $1.3 million. That would go up to about 2.5, 2.6 million over that period of time at the high point, and then it falls over time.
Mm-hmm.
Page number 12, this looks at the mill rate only for new debt, only for debt, I should say, in total. So again, we've got the green where the city's existing debt is, and that's about 0.8. So if your total mill rate is 4.07, 0.8 of that is for debt right now. And then the dark purple is that capital, and then the lighter purple is that future debt on the capital plan. So you'll see that goes then up from 0.8 up to about 1.5 when you have all that debt service on for that whole list of projects through 2011.
Which still isn't too bad, because annually in the past, we've been capital projects of approximately $1 million a year, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And really the big picture then is on the next page, which is page 13. If we tie that into the assumption that the tax increment district is closed in 2008, so that 170 odd million then comes back and can absorb the impact of this potential new debt, this represents the overall mill rate. So as we talked about, you're at 4.07 for all city expenditures right now. We'd expect a little uptick next year maybe, and that really is going to come down to what your decision is on fund balance use. I know you've discussed that.
Yes.
And this assumption is that there isn't any fund balance use in 08. So because of that, there would have to maybe, if we hold everything else constant, there might have to be some uptick in the mill rate because of that. But you can see in 09, 10, 11, when you're adding now the $2 million a year in potential debt plus that $10 million issue, because the TIF would be closed under this scenario, and you're adding that tax base back to what you can levy the debt over, the overall mill rate can be mitigated to almost staying at a constant mill rate where you're at right now. And that, again, goes to the big picture of what we're trying to give you an idea where you might want to go with this, is if you can time, I think as the mayor pointed out, if you can time those projects with the timing of the closing of the TIF district, I think instead of seeing a major spike up when you would have those projects go online, and then maybe the TIF closes a couple years later and then it drops down, maybe with some planning we can kind of smooth that out and have it be as painless as possible.
Sure.
Now, we didn't go through all the numbers again, but the second, page 14, just looks at the option of the $5 million instead of the $10 million option. And you can see, again, with holding all the other assumptions the same, instead of staying at that 4.07, 4.10 level, maybe there could even be a drop because, again, of bringing that tax increment district back to the tax base that you're levying all your expenditures, including this potential new debt, over.
Questions, anyone?
Thanks, Sean. Really good presentation.
No, thank you. Again, I apologize for my current situation here.
No, that's all right.
Nice.
Yes. We would expect, Mayor, just to finish up, we would expect that as you guys look at these projects, that the model that we've worked with Betty and Devin and Jack has spent some time with us and reviewing at this point will change based on some of your discussions here. But I think this will be a good good starting point as those projects are starting to come before you and you have to make some decisions.
We can use this for guideline, and with conferences and help from you, I think we'd be moving in a direction that would allow us to take into consideration some of the increases that we need in facilities, building-wise, the parks, wherever we need some additional dollars. We'll be able to do that if we close that TIF district. Questions of Sean, or? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, happy holidays.
Thank you very, very much for a great presentation. Let's go to B, capital projects and funding sources. Betty, we did have some preliminaries in a finance committee meeting a week ago, Thursday, I think it was. We kind of came to some agreements during that particular time. I know we've got some gentlemen here that are waiting for the next item, but bear with us. This will only take a few minutes and we'll get to what I think you're here for. Not only think, I know. Betty.
All right.
Executive summary.
Back down to 2007 funding of our capital outlay. As Sean alluded, when he gave you his presentation, one of the things that I gave him to go with is a $2 million issue for the possibility of $2 million in the year of 2007. So we did base that on the requests that had gotten from the departments. We picked what we would do in a one-year funding, which we just approved tonight for the $241,000, and the balance would be done through funding of bonds. When we initially did it, I think I put the bond issue over $3 million. Jack then, the mayor, sat down with the departments and went through it with each of them and decided to prioritize coming up with what they can do now, what they can postpone, and we brought it down to approximately a $2 million issue. It's a $1.8 million. We have capitalized costs that bring it up in about another $100,000, leaving about $110,000 of unrestricted funds at this point. If there's any possibilities of projects out there that we haven't discussed that are on here or prioritizing with the council changes, that's where that $110,000 would be available for that. But with that, that's what I'm looking for approval for tonight on the 2007. When I looked at that, I also looked at what our 2005 issue had left over. We had some changes in some major projects on the 2005 issue. One of the things that we funded was the Walnut Street Bridge. When we got into it, we had some problems with the mussels, and it delayed the project, and those funds became available. So I think we bonded $345,000, and of that, we probably have 200 and some thousand of that money that's available and won't be spent. We also had the wall down at Lakefront Park. Some funds were available from there. And when it comes all to it, I kind of did a summary sheet. I gave you all the details so you could look through it and see where everything was over and under. But I gave you a summary sheet tonight that kind of explains it. And what we had for 2005 bond issue was a $2.5 million issue. And we've spent in total capital projects. Those are the major capital projects. You'll see those kind of in the middle of the sheet. We have approximately $291,000 available from those projects. From the capital projects where we have the municipal building, what we did with the elevator, buying dump trucks, those type of things, we're about $25,000 over budget. So when we come down, the money that we have left is $265,000. When we met as a finance committee, one of the things that Finance decided was that we needed to do additional mill and overlay. In the 2007 budget, we have $80,000 in there. They weren't comfortable with that, and they wanted to take $80,000 of that fund, an additional $80,000, and put it into the 2007 budget and make it $160,000 of mill and overlay. So that was one of the recommendations of the Finance Committee to the Council tonight, was make that budget adjustment, take some funds. And I should say, in that $265,000 I told you that was available, that $80,000 is already out of there.
Yeah.
One of the other considerations was all the computer upgrades that we have had are approximately $60,000. And with that, if we would utilize these bond funds to pay back, because right now we're paying that back with tax monies, if we would utilize the bond funds, we would relieve some of the stress in the general fund budget. The mayor wanted, it would leave about $25,000 in the general fund. The mayor wanted to take that $25,000 and move it into the 2007 contingency. So what we would propose is that the $60,000 would fund all of the additional computer equipment and the computer upgrade, and $25,000 of that got relieved would be removed, added to the contingency fund for 2007. With that, we still have about $200,000. I went through, there was a few things that were funded through contingency that could be possibly funded with these additional funds. And I listed them down below. One was the Nye Aldrich Storm Sewer of about $12,000. 4th and 5th Street, Vine Street, Elm Street Storm Sewer, about $13,000. And then we did have a request from the Community Development for additional $25,000 to be applied for the comp plan. He felt a real need for that to be used in the first quarter of 2007 for all the additional work and trying to get things done on a timely basis. So everything in blue is the stuff that we have to look at tonight for approving or changing or how you want to utilize the $265,000.
Betty, your numbers don't add up. Sorry. You got 265 minus 60 gets on a 205, and then you got roughly another 50,000, brings it to 155 plus, and you show 110 on the bottom.
Okay, I've got 265 is 200 minus 50 is 150. You're right, doesn't add up.
That's what we had talked about.
It was about 130 then, wouldn't it
The
be?
110 is what those numbers add up to.
Oh, is that what that adds up to?
Okay.
So it's about 155,000. Okay.
After those projects are.
The 110,060 is the total of those four numbers.
Of those four numbers, right?
So 265 minus.
What's the additional money for the Nye Aldrich that's not in the 2007 listing?
Jim, could you come up and explain both of the storm sewers to us?
Can't do one without the other.
Well, yeah,
we were talking
and it's
about.
all going to go down to the river eventually.
Which piece are we talking about?
Well, in the 2007 listing, you have Nye Aldrich Storm Sewer at 182. I thought that was all encompassing after our meeting last Monday. And here on this, we're showing an additional potential to 12,000.
Sure. That's what was spent this year on the, I believe, right?
Is that for the engineering spent
Oh,
this
it's
year?
spent this year. on the
What this
engineering.
is saying is instead of using contingency monies.
Okay.
We
I
could
didn't know
use-
where that.
Yeah.
It's a good question and certainly identifies where those monies are.
Then the same would, I assume, is then for
Right.
the stuff on 4th and Vine. Yeah, it's for the
Okay.
engineering.
Okay, I didn't realize.
That we've already spent, right?
Right. And
This
it's
stuff
taken
was-
out of contingency,
Yeah.
and what Betty's suggesting, if you
Yep.
decide to do it is.
Well, Betty, you're looking for a motion for everything in blue except that last line, which is the net funds available, or?
I'm looking for recommendations from the council for funding. We could relieve the general fund by like additional $50,000 with funding those contingent projects.
Well, I'll move that we accept the 2007 issue as you have presented for 1.91 million, and additionally fund those other projects as you have listed in blue here.
Right.
With the Nye Aldrich Storm engineering, the 4th, 5th Street Vine Elm Storm engineering, and the computer upgrade of $60,000, and the comp plan of $25,000, a request from Community Development, leaving a net funds available of
155,632.
55, right?
155,632.
Yeah.
55,632.
I'll second.
Is that a second? Any
Is there anything available for our work at Diamond Drive? Is it gonna be, we're probably gonna need 10,000 for that.
Well, just to do the
We take
meeting.
it out of contingency.
That's why we inflated that contingency a little
Okay.
bit.
All right, I just,
Does the mill and overlay, Betty, that 80,000 need to be approved tonight as well? That move?
Yes.
Up
Oh,
on top.
That's
include that in
in.
my motion as well. I
Is
thought
that okay
was-
with the seconder?
Yep.
Okay. I think we're even except for the 155, okay? Any other discussions or comments or anything else you can think of that we have to pay that maybe we didn't have? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Let's go to C, consider the extension of water and sewer line to the end of Walnut Street and Dyke Road. And as I recall, the estimate for that particular job, correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, is $145,000? Is that with engineering? Ooh, gotcha.
I'd like to move for the funds to be allocated from the remaining balance left over from capital projects for $145,000.
I'll second that motion. Discussion.
Discussion.
Want to hear from the people that are here to talk about this?
Maybe we don't have to. We know what they're here for. They're your backup.
My backup.
They're all our backups.
That's right.
Is that better?
There you go.
Discussion.
Well, does anybody in the audience want to address this, as the mayor just discussed? No? Okay.
It's got its tie on, too. Wow.
I put the tie on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Dean Knudsen, 1753 Laurel Avenue. I'm a member of the Hudson Daybreak Rotary Club. And Rotary is a worldwide organization of business and professional people that are dedicated to service, humanitarian service around the world and in our communities. Over 1.2 million Rotary members belong to 32,000 clubs, and every week around the world there are Rotary clubs meeting. All clubs meet once a week. In Hudson, our two clubs have 150 members. So in the room here, there's, I guess I counted 12 members. We prefer to kind of work in the background, and oftentimes that's what we do, so I could have just sat here, but I guess since we came.
Well, we're glad you didn't bring the 150.
I didn't bring the 150. Our main objective is service, and service in the community has been a big thing. We work around the world on important issues like polio and children at risk, poverty, hunger, illiteracy, things like that. In the community, we have worked a lot on park improvement projects over the years. We sandblasted and painted the pavilion at Prospect Park. We've donated money for playground equipment in a variety of parks. We helped fund and build the community-built park last year. The skateboard park at the YMCA was a Rotary project. We installed 7 volleyball courts and 14 benches in recent years in parks. And sometimes we do it hands-on, and sometimes we just do fundraising and contribute money, but we'd like to do it hands-on when there's an opportunity. What makes Hudson so special? What's special about Hudson is our small town feel, it's our downtown, and it's the river. And our lakefront park is really the jewel of Hudson. I mean, it is the best that we have. It's something that we all care about and we want to make better all the time. So we looked at that at Rotary a few years ago and decided that that would be a long-term commitment. Whenever we could, we'd try to make improvements to Lakefront Park. About 5 years ago, we started looking for a large community service project, and we decided it would be in a park, and we talked with the park board, and ultimately we came up with the idea that there ought to be a pavilion out at the end of the dike. And we raised $50,000 to be used for construction of that, and tried to act as a catalyst to try to make it happen. And there's a lot of hurdles to jump over. There's federal agencies like the National Park Service and the Corps of Engineers that had to be dealt with, and then state agencies like the DNR. And ultimately, along with the support of the City Council, support of the Park Board all along, all those regulatory hurdles were cleared, and everybody came together, and these plans are ready to move forward. What's so special about it? Every year, thousands, probably tens of thousands of people take a trip down that dike road, and they get to, as a pedestrian, really experience the river. You get out into the middle of the river, you get to look back at the city from the river, and you're really out there. If you don't have a boat, that's probably as close as you can get at experiencing the river. On any given day, you might see a jogger with their dog. You're going to see mothers with their kids, seasoned citizens out for exercise. And, you know, most of them don't even realize the historic origins of why that thing is there. It's essentially an island that crosses the river almost from edge to edge. There's the bridge that you talked about doing repairs on that takes you onto the island, and then you're on what we all call the dike, and the dike road, which has a really historically unique thing. The toll road, the toll bridge, and the booth was there, and the footings of that are still there. When you go for a walk, you step right on the foundations of that. And we thought it'd be neat to recreate that. And while we couldn't quite get approval for it to be exactly what we wanted, because there's a lot of limitations out there with all those regulatory agencies, the plan that we came up with will provide a place to sit and rest if you've been walking out before you head back. It'll provide restrooms, drinking water, tables for you to have a picnic lunch, or shelter from the sun or from rain. And it's, I don't know what it is, a little under a half mile out there. It's a great walk, and it's really probably one of the things that any visitor to Hudson should do is walk out there. And I know you're as committed to this as we are. Preserving that dike, making that experience the best it can be, is something that we're very committed to. It is a unique Hudson asset, and we hope that you'll vote, and thank you for your votes to approve this project.
Pat Casanova again, 739 11th Street here in Hudson. I'm on the park board, and I'm also a Rotarian in the Hudson Daybreak Rotary Club. And as has been indicated so far, that it's been an ongoing project of trying to develop this to take place out there for the benefit of everybody who lives in Hudson, being able to use our river, to use the beach that's out at the end of the dike and the like, and have some facilities once you're out there. Most of the boaters who have boats are large enough that they have their own bathroom facilities and the like with it, and we wanted to create a nice, clean, usable facility for people of Hudson to use. Along with this, as it's come to Finance Committee, there's been, I think, a little bit of a misnomer in that we've always planned on having water as part of the project, to have fresh water out there, to have drinking water, to use drinking water, and then to have water for the bathroom. And we looked at both having a holding tank system that would be pumped on a regular basis and putting in a sewer line. Now, the sewer line would be above ground on the backside of the I'll call it the upright curb that runs out there. And when we looked at the numbers, and as a park board, we looked at the cost of putting holding tanks out, having to have them pumped on a periodic basis, and the problems that are attendant to having that kind of a system versus putting in a sewer line now, running it above ground and having it there. It came out at that time to be almost a wash. It isn't like we were adding an expensive item to an already planned project. And I just want to make that point clear, that we are already running water out there, which was the more significant part of that bid. And then, like I said, eliminating the holding tanks and having to pump it, and the ongoing maintenance and like that would have to go to that. And one of the costs that has been a problem for this whole project is to try and make everything vandal-proof. You know, it's a problem we have in the parks. It's a problem we had still have in Lakefront Park. We, as a park board, made a very conscious decision to postpone doing the re-siding of the bathhouse, to take the dollars that we had for that and take the funds that we had saved from doing the wall project and apply them to this project, to be able to do it right the first time, and to save the city money of, instead of having to put holding tanks in now and then come along 5 years from now and run the sewer line out there. So I just wanted to make that point clear. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm the president of the Hudson Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau, and I speak tonight as the tourism director, a Hudson resident, a Rotary Club member, a boater, and a parent. On behalf of the Tourism Bureau, I wish to express my support of the pavilion at the end of the Toll Bridge Road. I really can't say it any better than these other two gentlemen. They've really said it all. The project will definitely be a community asset and will enhance Hudson tourism by far. The project will enhance the riverfront and lakefront areas. It will beautify the Toll Bridge Road. I know there are other projects in the works for that. And it'll be nice to provide a sanitary restroom facility to residents and boaters alike. The one thing that I find the most intriguing, though, is the fact that we're replacing a piece of history here. Not only will the conveniences and the beauty be nice, but it will really be nice for a tourism director to be able to promote that as another tourism destination in Hudson. So with that, I want to say I highly support, and I hope you do as well tonight. Thank you.
I know most of you. I'm Don Gilbert, Chairman of the Park Board. I like the affirmation that I'm one of those seasoned citizens of Hudson. And Jack and I both have become seasoned citizens.
I'm
Jack,
much more seasoned than you.
Not much. Jack on the council and I on the Park Board. I don't know how many years I've been on the Park Board, to be honest with you, but it was prior to the band shell and bathhouse that are down there, because I was involved in that. But I'm here more to take the opportunity, because I don't get a chance to address the council very often, and thank the council for the bonding that we received in the last couple of years to bring the parks back to what we thought they were in the 40s. The picture that we have in our minds of what they were and could be again was a long-time project, and with the help of many of you that are sitting on the council today that have taken their turn working on the Park Board, this has come to fruition. And I think you can see many of the accomplishments that have taken place with those bonding funds. Some of those dollars came in under budget, some over budget, but most of them fairly close. The one that did not came in under budget considerably was the wall, and we knew that at the time when we made the request. Council members as well knew that it was slightly higher than what we anticipated, but because of the regulations of both federal and state people, we weren't sure how those numbers would come and what kind of regulations they were going to put on us. But the seawall, or as we learned to call it, is a silt restriction area rather than a seawall. It's politically better put that way. But we do see the value that will have on Lakefront Park. With those dollars that were left, we would like to see them spent on the sewer and water out to the pavilion. People say, how can a bathroom cost $250,000? I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on that. When we have been going through these parks, we wanted to standardize restrooms for all the parks so we don't have to reinvent for each park a bathroom. So we want to standardize that. So we went out looking for this, and what we found, as cheap as we could possibly do a bathroom, would be about $120,000 to $140,000. That's doing it cheaply, okay? What we found, because of vandalism, that we can't do it cheaply. If we're going to do one of those, we have to do it right. And it's going to cost more than $120,000, unfortunately. When we planned the pavilion and the Rotary Club came to us saying that they wanted one on the end of the Dyke Road, first thing that came up was vandalism. And vandalism was a big problem. And one of the things that we set forth in is that was going to be as vandal-proof as we could possibly make it. Now, are we finished with doing it vandal-proof? No. But I'll tell you, the interior of that building is designed like the prisons in Stillwater, maximum security prisons. not just the prison, the maximum security. We want as little vandalism as possible. We like stone walls if possible. We would like gates if possible. But the project, as we progress, we want it done right. We made the mistake when we built the bathhouse, when we requested it many years ago, not this council, and I don't want to imply that this council did it, but we wanted stone walls on it. We wanted gates in the opening so that we could close them, not have access to those doors on off hours. That was rejected by the council and reduced our cost, and so we had to go with what we did, and that's where we're at. And we're paying for it in vandalism, and we want to redo it now. And I think it's right that we want to redo it. When we do redo it, we want it to match the pavilion that's on the end of the Dyke Road. Again, we want to do it right. If we're going to do the project, we want to do it right, and rather than halfway. And I don't know if Angela's had the opportunity. I asked her not to show you the bathhouse particularly, unless you requested it, because we pulled it from our schedule to have it done this year. So whether she showed it to you or not, if she did, it's a matching situation. If she didn't, if you saw the pavilion at the end of the dike, the bathhouse looks very much like it. It's almost a duplicate. It's very similar. So that's where we're at on that. We would like the sewer and water. We would like those dollars spent there. If they couldn't be spent there, we don't want it to leave Lakefront Park, because there are other projects that we're looking for down the road that these dollars could be spent on, but that's an alternative. Our first thing is to get this building at the end of the Dyke Road pavilion and bathrooms, which we feel are used, if not number one park by the citizens of the city of Hudson. It's 1 and 2. Williams Park and Lakefront Park are the most used parks by the citizens of Hudson. Grandview with the new playground is going to be pushing Williams Park very hard, but with that new playground, again, donated by the citizens of Hudson, which I think is just fabulous. We've had a $200,000 to $250,000 playground donated by the citizens of Hudson this year. We had a $20,000 to $35,000 picnic pavilion donated by the Girl Scouts out at Wycamp Park this year. We've had a water fountain by the Lions Club up at Grandview Park this year. Our donations from the citizens of Hudson have been invaluable. But I think it's what they feel this community is worth. The parks are important to the people of this community, and that's why I'm asking for your indulgence. Again, I thank you not only for the bonding of the parks and stuff, but I was taken back when this council stepped up to the plate for Prospect Park. And again, for the citizens of Hudson and the park board, I thank you.
Well, Donnie, we certainly appreciate the work that you and your committee have done. And as I look at the 2007 capital outlay, I think we did put $120,000 in there for the Lakefront Beach House re-siding.
Yeah, and
I thought you mentioned that you had taken it out.
We had taken it out for this year, because we originally had it in for this year, and rather than use that money left over from the wall on the bathhouse, we preferred to push it up into 2007.
It's in the budget for 2007.
And again, you recognize that, the importance of that, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Comments from the council?
I'd like to make some comments reflecting what Don just talked about. And Dean, I want to thank you for the little bit of newspeak. Yes, I do, because I'm out on the Dyke Road every single day in good weather, and if I'm not walking on the Dyke Road, I'm going by it in my boat and seeing all the other boaters out there. And I guess when you said seasoned citizen, the very first thing I thought of was myself, but then, of course, both Jack and Don are a lot older than I am, so.
Doesn't look like it.
It may be white, but there's more of it, sir. I happily served on the park board with Don for a number of years until the mayor moved me over to some other committees. I'm still very interested in what goes on with parks. And I do want to make clear, because I think a lot of people have talked to me. In fact, I couldn't even get through breakfast at a restaurant this weekend without people buttonholing me on this. And I welcome all their comments, because it led me to believe that there has been some misconception here. Some people believe we are talking about whether or not the picnic pavilion is going to be built. We are not. The picnic pavilion is going to be built, because there's already a maximum of $200,000 allocated for that out of donations, and $50,000 from Rotary, a matching $50,000 from the city, and a $100,000 grant, maximum of a $100,000 grant from the DNR. So there's $200,000 right there. All we're talking about is whether or not there is going to be running water and sewer out there at the end of the Dyke Road. And I'm going to vote against that. And I'll tell you why I'm going to vote against that, because I think there are good and true reasons. First of all, I'm here, as all the other 5 members of the council are here, to act on behalf of the city, not any private group, not necessarily any other faction. We take an oath to look out for the welfare of the city. And first of all, we're talking about $145,000. Now, admittedly, I spoke to Angela just ahead of time, that is basically her best estimate. It's an estimate. No bids have been received to do this project for $145,000. No contractor has stepped up to say, hey, I think I can do that for $145,000. It is a good guess, a good estimate at this point. But we do have a very serious problem with vandalism, as each of you has mentioned. And our history with the beach house tells us that you build the bathroom and the vandals will come. The beach house restrooms have been closed for, I can't remember how long, because they were destroyed. They were destroyed by visitors to Hudson, or perhaps people who live here, I don't know. The point I have is that to do it for $145,000, you're going to be, and I checked this with Angela just minutes ago, you're going to be hanging from the upright curb, as Pat described it, a 2-inch PVC, or more likely probably a CPVC pipe for water to go out there, and a 3-inch sewer pipe for wastewater to come back. And each of these pipes will be approximately half a mile long, 2,500 feet, almost 100 feet short of half a mile. So we're talking about supply water, and we're talking about wastewater. So I talked today to several gentlemen who are in charge of that. I talked to Denny Christopherson, head of our water utility, who said to me, I think this project is more like $245,000 rather than $145,000, but that aside, he said, you are not going to get a drink of cool water out there, because you are going to have pipes that are running alongside heated up concrete, and the water that's going to be coming out of there during the summer months, which is the only time of operation for this running water, is going to be hot water. So if you don't mind drinking hot water, okay. Now, of course, you can use the hot water to flush a toilet. That's not a problem for that. But drinking water, he said, you're not going to want to drink that water. Those were his exact words. I also spoke with Jim Schreiber, who is the superintendent of our wastewater treatment plant. And he's got a lot of knowledge about running sewer pipes. You know, we don't normally run sewer pipes above ground. You normally run them also not at a level grade. This is going to be a perfectly level horizontal pipe. It's going to carry wastewater, hopefully half a mile. And as Angela and I discussed ahead of time, I'm trying to be delicate about this, but not all the wastewater is going to get to shore, okay? It's going to take several pumpings of the lift station. We're going to have to put in a macerator, a grinder, and a lift station to lift this sewage up high enough so that you can put it into the pipe. But it's not going to make it all the way to the shore, because there just isn't enough product to push along. You're going to have to wait for more product to push the first product, and then the third product to push the first two, et cetera. So you're always going to have sewage in that 3-inch pipe, hanging out in the open, exposed. Plastic pipe. And I don't know how long it's going to take for somebody to think it's really a great idea to attach a couple of M80s to it, or take something else to it, or see how high can you jump up and down on it before it breaks. I see that as easily happening because it's exposed. It's very, very vulnerable. It's not encased in concrete. It's plastic pipe. And whatever the tensile strength of that plastic is, I don't know, but it's going to be sections of pipe that are bound together, I assume in the normal method with a melting agent that bonds them together. And since you've got fluid in that pipe, wastewater in that pipe, any break would be a catastrophe. Now, how big a catastrophe and what is the city's liability? Also, let me point out, since I do go to the end of the Dyke Road all the time, you know, they're not holding Sunday school classes out there. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think that some of the people that I've seen are exactly the type of people who like to see how much they can jump up and down on a sewer pipe. This is our permit. This is our WPDS permit, Wisconsin Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. This governs our wastewater treatment facility. This is the pact that we make with the state in order to operate our wastewater treatment plant. If we had somebody jump up and down the pipe or break it in any way, if there was an unregulated discharge of waste material, it's called bypassing, by the way. I thought that was kind of a nice euphemism. You bypass the usual treatment plant. And any unscheduled bypass or overflow of wastewater is subject to Section 283.89 Wisconsin statutes. Now, what do those statutes say? Whenever, on the basis of any information available to it, the department finds that any person or entity is violating this chapter, any term or condition of any permit issued pursuant to this chapter, the department shall refer the matter to the Department of Justice for enforcement. And what does and they say refer to 283.91, and 283.9.91 says that you shall forfeit, the city shall forfeit, up to $10,000 a day for discharging that effluent into the St. Croix River. I talked to Dan Ballman at the DNR, and I said, you know, the city wouldn't be responsible for that effluent going into the river. It'd be some miscreants, some vandals. His response was, we don't care how it gets into the river. You're the owner. The city's the owner. The city's going to pay the fine. So we now have a possible liability of $10,000 a day per occurrence. There is another problem that citizens have talked to me about, and frankly, it occurred to me pretty early, but I thought I was just being paranoid. Right now, there's a lot of stuff going on at the end of the Dyke Road. They are violating every rule we have of our parks because they're aware that police we're stretched pretty thin. Getting to the end of the Dyke Road, pretty tough deal. They're violating our rules against drinking, camping overnight, having bonfires, etc. Some people have been observed trying to create families out there. And so with all of that in mind, I have to think, let's take this $145,000 and decide what to do with it. Now, if we bond for $145,000 over the period of the bond, that with interest, that's really $250,000 or more, actually. Now, that is almost $60 per home owner in Hudson. Let's not say it's 60. Let's take it down to 50. Let's take it down to 40. Let's say $40 per homeowner in Hudson. And if I had $40 in my hand, and I went to all of my neighbors, and I said, I need $40 from you, and I need $40 from you, and I need $40 from you. And we have a choice here. I can either build a sewer pipe to the end of the Dyke Road, which I believe has the great chance of putting the city in harm's way with a liability of $10,000 a day, or we can do any of the other projects that Don talked to me about at our Finance Committee meeting a week ago tonight. Which would you rather do? I think the answer is immediately obvious. The last thing I have to say about this that people are concerned about is that at the end of the Dyke Road, no matter what people do, it's open. There are no enclosures. Whatever people do can be seen by others, and I think that's a deterrent. I think the more sets of eyeballs you have out there, the better. And I think the picnic pavilion is a perfect way to get more eyeballs out there. I completely support the picnic pavilion. What I do not support is enclosed rooms, bathrooms, that someone can be dragged into or something can happen in that people cannot see and maybe can't even hear. I think that's fraught with danger for our tourists, our visitors, and our citizens. I would suggest that we stay with the porta potty system we have, which were being turned over until we finally anchored them in concrete, and now they're working just fine. And that's the only thing I've ever seen in any of our parks that does work like that, for a restroom that works that well. And I suggest we stay with that. It may not be as pretty as a bathroom, but there's no chance of mischief, or very little chance of mischief, as there is with these bathrooms, and that darn sewer pipe running half a mile. Totally exposed every inch of the way. So that's why I'm going to vote against the sewer. If the pavilion itself were up for a vote, I would be voting for that.
Other comments?
I'd like to hear if Don or one of the other guys can respond to some of the stuff Scott brought up.
And while Don's coming up, let's clarify with Angela, what is the nature of that pipe that's coming out? Is it going to be PVC? Is it going to be steel? Is it going to be what?
It's going to be the plastic HDPE.
Okay.
It's a pipe that you can hardly break with a sledgehammer, right? That you can, but it takes a sledgehammer to do it.
I would say it's fairly durable, but...
It's not like what you have in your basement when it gets, you know, it's not the same thing.
What is that, about a quarter of an inch? Wall? Yeah.
Probably on that range, on the order for that size pipe.
Okay. Johnny?
I hesitated to bring it up and because when I say vandalism is our number one priority on every project, if you just go up to Prospect Park and look at just the steps that we put in and the lighting that's on there, on how that is going to help vandalism in that park by itself, you'll see what I'm talking about. But because it's not in place, and I didn't want to bring it up, but hopefully scheduled for our January meeting, our intention is to have a person who is involved in security, camera security, to give us a diagnosis, if you want to say, what it would take to put that under camera security. And not only that, the possibility of tying it into other parks as well. So when I say we're looking at security and vandalism, we're looking at it, and we're looking at it strongly. Not just the hope that we can get a police officer out there occasionally. We want something that's constant, movement activated, whatever it takes, noise activated. We don't know because we haven't had it in front of us yet. I didn't want to bring it up until we had seen it. But with the accusations and the, I'm going to say scare tactics that Scott's putting out there, which I think is a scare tactic, and I don't want to put it that way, but that's the way it sounds, Scott. From where I'm sitting, it sounds like scare tactics. And but we're going the opposite direction with security and with pictures. That's much more scary than a gate and stuff like that. And that's what we're looking at. We're going to go some route to stop this vandalism. We're going to see what it takes, but we're going to try and get it stopped. Any other questions of me while I'm here?
Well, I do
Scott?
have one.
Yeah.
If to try to make these bathrooms more secure, you're going to put in, I assume, 2 security cameras, one for men's and one for women's.
No, they're not going to. It can't be inside the bathrooms.
Oh, of course. What am I thinking of? Yeah. So again, sorry.
I hope there's 5 cameras out there, to be honest with you. I hope they're on every side of the building,
sure,
towards the beach, so we see what's going on in that whole area. I'm not talking just the house itself or the pavilion or whatever.
You're going to put the cameras out there whether you have running water or not?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Well, one of the things we did, as you know, Don, in
Yes.
Prospect Park, was to close that park at sundown, which eliminated all of the vandalism. I don't think we've had any problems there, Jim, since we did that. We might want to use some technique out there using the same approach, or with cameras, or with the police department, and I'm looking at the chief and he's bobbing his head up and down. Hopefully that's, hey, we'll help you out.
Well, one of the things that we helped up at Prospect Park, one of our officers was really aggressive. I think one night he arrested 12 people, and that really put a crimp in their conduct.
That's before we closed it at sundown.
Right, before he
Right.
closed it, but he was still very aggressive.
And we appreciate that. That's what we need in some
Anybody
of these
else
cases.
on the council want to make some comments? Because I'm going to make some after.
I do. After our last finance meeting, Mr. Gilbert and Alderperson Rademacher asked me to reconsider, because at the last meeting, the funding really wasn't there, and then we had the money left over from 2005. So I told them that I would canvass the people in my district. And I did that. And there's people in favor of it, but right now, the majority of them that I spoke to are against it. So I'm going to have to vote no for this water. They know that the pavilion's going to be there, and they're okay with the pavilion. But
Well, actually, if we just have a pavilion, then we lose the grant, because you materially change the scope of the project, the $100,000 DNR grant. Really, all we're doing here, if you look at it, is we had one project. This money that's left over here, if you were unallocated money, is money that was allocated for projects in Lakefront Park. And quite frankly, we had one project that was, a couple years ago, we had a very aggressive agenda to spruce up our parks, like Don alluded to. And a couple of jewels in Lakefront Park, what we really want to do is get the shelter built and the wall, and we allocate a lot of money to do that. And a lot of volunteer time has gone into this project, either through fundraising efforts, through meetings, through all the bureaucratic red tape we've had to go through to get permission, not only permits, but the grant, and then the approval of the grants through all the different agencies. It's a long process. And all that's been done, because why? Because the community does want this project. The DNR thinks it's a great project, which is unusual. And it's something that's been in the works for many years. I think, Scott, you actually were on the park board when this project was originated, and in favor of it.
And it was
all the way
a
through.
vastly different project at that time when we first envisioned it.
It hasn't really changed.
Well,
I've
yes,
seen
it
the
has,
original
but-
drawings. But the fact is, all we're doing is we had one project under budget, one project this project is over budget because we made it over budget, trying to do the best we can to make it vandal-proof. Nothing's perfectly vandal-proof, but I have a better view of the people in our world, that not everybody's going to go out there and try and destruct things. Will there be some vandalism? Probably, but we're putting gates in this shelter to pull down at night. Most vandalism occurs at dark. We're going to have more enforcement out there. We have to, because we're putting lights out there. We're putting a lot of money out in Lakefront Park, and our police department needs to respond to that. And the reason why we have vandalism, the reason why we have people doing bad things out there is because we don't have the enforcement. And if we had enforcement, then a lot of those issues would go away. This project's been years in the making. It's here. It's arrived. Really, the funds are here. We've allocated money to do everything that we'd like to do in our bonding issues here. This is money that's been left over. Even out of that money, we've dedicated to more mill and overlay, more computer issues. It's time to move this project forward.
Yeah. The one thing I would like to say is, in the 3 years that this project has been on the table, we have not had one person at our park board meeting that was against it.
And the city council's been very supportive.
Yes.
All the way through.
Again,
Mr. Weiland, you have some comments?
Yeah, I just had, if Angela can answer a couple of questions for me about the sewer and water line. Do we have other areas in the city where we use the same above-ground system?
No, I do not believe we have any areas in the city that have the above ground.
Do we know of anybody who does, and if they've had any problems with it?
There's a 2-inch water line that goes to the commercial boating line that's halfway down the Dike Road. There's a 2-inch line that is attached there for them to get their water prior to them cruising. So we can check with them to see what problems they've had on the water line, but there's no sewer lines that I know of.
There's a sewer line sewer line coming from North Hudson to Hudson under the North Hudson Bridge.
On the bridge?
So we've got actually water halfway out the Dyke Road already.
Not we, it's a private line
Okay.
that goes out to the.
Not we, but there is a line
Yes,
that's
there is a
halfway out.
line, but it's not owned by the city.
Well, it only goes out, what, a couple hundred yards?
Yeah, it basically goes to the other side of the Walnut Street Bridge.
Oh, I see, okay.
So it's only the
to the,
first 400 feet.
Afton lines.
Okay.
The boat.
And Scott, for your $10,000 a day thing, is that one quart, or is that like St. Paul where they've dumped 3 days worth of refuse in the river?
It's any discharge into the river of any amount. And it isn't 10,000, it's up to 10,000.
So there is it depends on the type of spill.
It depends on really on how
Everybody
the
will get
DNR
a
deals with
chance
it.
to
Okay.
speak.
Those are the
I do have a question for Don. Don, if you wouldn't mind, one more time coming up, I'm sorry.
Let's get the comments from the council, and then we'll get him to answer that.
Okay, fine.
I just wanted to say that as a kid that grew up 3 blocks and utilized that Dyke Road for many years in the city, to have and to look at this as a project that we can be proud of is something next to none. I know you appreciate that. At the same time, though, there are some benefits that could come out of having that shelter down there. When we were growing up, there was no water. That water issue, warm water, they make fountains with chillers on it that don't cost that much. If somebody gets hurt, need fresh water, clean water, can have a boat, can have the ambulance come out there, you have a place for people to shelter or have an EMS person stationed out there. There are things that can be done to make that more of a benefit of having that facility out there. It enhances it. The park board's done their due diligence. They've gotten all the required permits. I think there's nothing wrong with this. And as a lifelong resident, it's something that you can be proud of and bring your kids down there. I know there's problems out there, but like Paul said, you know, let's give the benefit of the doubt. So I strongly support this project.
Okay, it's just that you're calling, so far we've heard some things that we have not in evidence, that we're going to get more police protection out there. I guess we have to hear from Acting Chief Larson as to, are we gonna hire more policemen, or what's gonna happen here? Who's gonna close down that security gate every night at 11 o'clock? Because that's when that park closes. Paul has mentioned that if we don't put in running water, we don't get the DNR grant. Where is the DNR grant language? It's not in evidence. I doubt that it says that, because I've been given other information by Betty Caruso. I don't think we'll lose that grant if we don't have running water.
Oh, I applied for the grant. I know that.
Well,
I'm
would
sorry,
you
I'm
show that,
interrupting you. I
why haven't you brought
apologize.
it here to show it to us? I mean, I brought my paperwork from the
Go get the
DNR.
application material. It's a picnic shelter and bathroom facility. If you materially change a project, then you lose the grants.
But the bathroom facility also included holding tanks, right? Without running water.
Initially.
Well, and it does, so it does. So we
Well-
don't need running water to get the grant.
But,
You need
Kara,
water.
did you have something to say?
Yes, I think that if we add running water and sewer to this area, we're going to add a significant part to Lakefront Park for families that we don't have right now. If you have young children, many people I've talked to will not go out to the end of the Dyke Road, because what happens if your children has to use the bathroom, or they need to do change diapers or anything like that? I think adding the sewer and water will encourage more families to go out there, which may, and this is speculation, but may reduce some of the other activity that goes on out there.
Well, I have a couple of comments, and if everybody reads the Hudson paper, they'll know there was a letter directed to me who affectionately referred to this as the Pucatorium. But the guy didn't operate with any facts. He never does. And if he's as good as he thinks he is, we ought to have him on the council and as the mayor and on the school board and everything else. The second thing that has significance to this particular topic is that we tonight have allocated money for just about everything that we needed. About $2 million worth of capital projects. We still have some money left over. Number 3, we're talking about vandalism. We looked at a few things and discussed a few things, and maybe we can put some meat on them later as it relates to the vandalism that may or may not occur out there. I'd like to ask the Rotary to consider in the future some additional monies for security that we may need, whether that be a park person or cameras or security chains or whatever. And they do have projects every year, and I'd like to certainly hope that they take that into consideration. I'll hold my vote until I see what's happening here. If we're going to put a project out there that's going to cost us about $250,000, and that's already voted on, then if we're going to do it, let's do it right. And so with that statement, if there isn't any other comments, maybe we're ready for...
I just wanted to make one more comment.
Oh, yes,
I
I'm sorry.
appreciated Dean's point on the historic value of restoring that area and bringing people out to the end of the Dyke Road. I really appreciated that comment. Thank you.
Ron Weiler.
Just one quick comment. Ron Weiler, 1319 Woodland Court. I'm also on the park board and a Rotary member. And very good feedback tonight. A lot of good things happening. But one thing we've been talking about at the park board is if we are going to put all this money into lakefront, it is the jewel of Hudson. We need to have more involvement by the community. We need to get more eyes out there, Scott. And what we're thinking about doing is kind of like a Friends of the Park. Maybe Rotary is a way to do that, to get people out there. Right now, families don't want to be out there. We need to take control so families want to be out there. Thank you.
Good point, Ron.
Call a question.
Oh, wait a minute, we have one more. Let's let everybody have their chance.
In our very earliest, Don mentioned this, in the very earliest discussions we had, we talked about vandalism. And I think that the approach they've taken of making it as vandal-proof as it can be is a good one. But I do think that with the community eyes looking and a little bit of enforcement, my idea for the last few years now is that the squad cars have a little remote control that opens the gate somehow and they can just suddenly appear down there. You know, if you think of it from the point of view of a vandal, I mean, I don't know what illegal activity you want to take part in, but that's a really dumb place to do it. Just think about this. It's a really dumb place to do it. Once there's a squad car there, where are you going?
There's only
you
one.
Can try to launch your boat. There's no place to run, and there's no place to hide. You can swim for it. I mean, once they know that, it stops. I really believe that. A lot of that activity, I mean, it may be on the other islands out there. I'll grant you that, but I don't think it'll be there.
Well, Dean, I want to respond to that, if I may, because it does bring up a subject that I actually was not going to bring up. Because I think you could claim I was being small-minded by bringing this up. But, and I don't know how often you get out to the end of the Dyke Road, but I'm there all the time. The end of the Dyke Road ends in a small island that's mostly underwater early in the summer, and then you get a lot of sand as the water goes down. And I think the picnic pavilion stands a very great chance of being inundated with boaters to the exclusion of Hudson families. Because there's going to be only so many picnic tables under that shelter roof. And there are so many boats there. There are people who leave their boats there all summer long. It's their weekend cabin. On the island directly north there, they set up a restaurant last year. I sail by this all the time. And I believe that the boaters, and this is the small-minded part, many of the boats have Minnesota registration, and that's fine. We want tourists here, but I don't see them walking to town to buy goods and things. They bring them with them, and I think they're going to say to us, thank you for building us this picnic shelter, and I believe the boaters who are there are going to take it over and to kind of crowd out the Hudson families, because there are enough boaters there to do that already.
Are we ready for the question?
Well, just one more final quick
sure.
comment is that we are, as you know, we approved lights to go out along the Dyke Road. I think that as well will help curb some of the vandalism that...
Plus some benches.
benches, and, yeah, it's,
Are we ready?
yes.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
What is it, 4-2? Motion's carried. Let's go to D, no, that's already done, isn't it? Communications and recommendations of the mayor. I did get a letter from Kim Heineman, and I'll read it to you. I received a call from Representative Ron Kine's office regarding the funding projects that we submitted for the Riverwalk, the library, the Stillwater Bridge project. Remember, Kine's office told us they would advise allocations after the elections. Well, they have. They're not going to send us any funds for any of those projects. There are no allocations this year at all. Now, we kind of predicted that before the election, but this is kind of, as Kim says, very, very sad for Hudson.
And you'll notice that I asked them please to send me something in writing, so it
Yeah.
wasn't just me verbalizing it to you, and they did. Jack has a copy of that as well. It's very political.
It's very political. As a matter of fact, at the bottom of this, it says the congressional Republican leadership stated the year with the budget so unrealistic that their own members rejected it. The second thing I have to say is we received several letters from the occupants of 911 4th Street really complaining about the increase from $8 a square foot to $13. I did have conversations with most of these people, and we're going to send an official letter back. But I said with the restrictions that we have on our budget and actually running a deficit of $135,000 on that building, we no longer could sustain any condition of leaving it at $8. The third thing I had is the tax statements. I think I mentioned that at the first of the meeting. Will be being mailed out from the county for your tax statements in the next 3 or 4 days. So with that, I'd like to ask for any communications items for future agendas without discussion. Any alderperson?
I'd like to wish everybody in Hudson a Merry Christmas or a Happy Holiday or Kwanzaa.
Yeah, very good. Same here. Anyone else? City Attorney? City Administrator?
Just real briefly, Betty and I are double checking our numbers, but it looks like our final total tax rate for all passenger jurisdictions will be $13.90, which is, we were at one point at 15, we've been lowering it, so that'll be good news for everybody, regardless of where their assessment ended up, so that's what we're looking at right now.
Oh, I wanted to mention unofficially, I'm sorry I didn't do that before, but Denny Darnold was able to secure the $10,000 project for our planning of the lakefront area where we have the moratorium on. Excel will be presenting us with a check for $10,000, which is kind of nice. So if you see Denny, he's the guy that you got to give credit to because he's the one that pursued it and got it. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Good meeting.